Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. My name is Martin Coward, and we gather here every day at noon, Monday through Saturday, to love and support each other through this pandemic crisis. And I'm so glad we do. We get a refuge here from all the drama that the world is causing on the outside, as well as a little refuge from all the drama our egos are causing on the inside. And that's exactly why we're here today. Is we're here to look at how is the drama that we're creating in our lives, how are we creating it? And to talk about that is, and not only how are we creating it, how do we let go of it? How do we resolve it? And our guest today is one of my dearest friends. And actually, she helped me she's the co-founder of the Financial Mystics Sanctuary. And she's a dear friend of mine, and she's one of my mentors. And I'm just really excited to have her come on today as my guest and share with you her perception of perspective on the ego and manifesting and problem solving, and what her take is on how we can love and support each other through this pandemic. And there's somebody that wants to say hello. Who is this? That's my good friend Rohit. I think he was on here yesterday.
Hey, Rohit.
And I will be here all day with you. Yesterday Rohit took in because I had to go take a class, but I'm on pins and needles to hear what Courtney has to say, because she's always got some good wisdom. So thank you for that. And let's see here. Okay, so I'll man the people chatting in. If we could just jump in when somebody says hello, just say hello to them. And if you're joining in, please just chat in hello in the bottom in the chat so I know you're here. It's always nice to know who's visiting. And enough by me. And Courtney, I am going to let you take it from here, and I'm going to mute my microphone.
All right. So I want to start first off a little bit about my story, because it is a little bit unique, and we learn, from each other's stories. So I like to say I've kind of been on like the fast track of life. I did everything society told me to do to be happy. And I was a rule follower. I was highly motivated, a doer. Everything that I wanted to accomplish, I've accomplished. But also at the same time, for as long as I can remember, being a little girl, I was searching for answers, searching for meaning in life. But it was always kind of more like this side, almost like a side hobby of questioning life, which is funny. But I did everything right. So I had good grades. I was a competitive dancer. I then got into running. I got a scholarship to a Division I school for track and cross country. Made my parents proud. I got married right out of college. I started in the corporate world in finance. My husband became an attorney. Then I became, we had children. I had my daughter. Then I even became an entrepreneur. Like you, Martin, doing investment advice and financial planning, and pretty much living the dream as most people would view it. And I had a series of events that happened to me that kind of turned my world upside down. I had kidney failure, where I was in hospital for a week and was sure I was going to die. It was very scary. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. After I had my daughter, I had a second trimester miscarriage, which was pretty traumatic for me. And then right after that, 2 months later, I had an ectopic pregnancy where I had to have emergency surgery, and I lost a lot of blood and almost died there. I got pregnant with my son, and I had a very intense and a high-risk pregnancy. I was on and off bed rest. And then I had a very traumatic birthing experience with him. So I promise this gets better. I had a traumatic birthing experience with him. I had to have a C-section, and then I had complications from the C-section and really almost bled to death then. But luckily was able to get blood transfusions and recovered. When I came back from the hospital, my mother, grandmother, and sister came out to visit and help with the baby. And unexpectedly, within about a month, my grandmother went into hospice in my home, and I had a newborn and was, basically sending my grandmother off and experience everything that happens to someone when they're, leaving this life, which was had its scary moments, but also was very, very rewarding at the same time. When my grandmother passed 2 months later, in my home, my sister passed unexpectedly. Um, so I had all these crazy things happen in a short period of time to where I was like, what is going on? I'd done all these perfect things and had everything that I wanted, or thought I wanted. And it really just shook things up a bit. Shook things up and had me questioning, well, am I really happy? It brought up those questions that I've kind of had been answering before. What is the meaning to all this? What is the meaning of life? Why are we doing this? Why am I here? And that really propelled me into a more intense spiritual journey, to where it had more it always been a part of my life, but it really started becoming the focus of my life. And so I first started out with manifestation. I got really excited into manifestation because I realized, oh, I've been manifesting my whole life and I manifested all these great things. So, if I can be more conscious about it, no telling what I can accomplish. And the spiritual, so I got into spirituality and manifestation. And most of the people were telling me, this is an abundant, unlimited world. So, go for it. So, at that time, I was already making six figures and, had the 2 kids and, my dream husband and my, everything that I had wanted. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not aiming high enough. So why not go for like $1 million a year, or just, I raised the stakes. So, because this is the aligned, abundant life. So then I started, I won't say I got to $1 million a year, but I started raising the stakes, started, going on more exotic vacations all over the world, and just accumulating more and more things. Pretty much every time I wanted something, I got it, and I thought like that was the game. And it was, I kept kind of doing this, and part of the manifestation process, or as part of the spiritual awakening process, is working on these limiting beliefs and these blocks and all these things that are holding you back. So again, I was more money driven. So I'm like, okay, well, let's work through money blocks. What are all these our childhood issues that are coming up? I even looked at past life issues. I did, past life regressions. I did every healing that I know that exists. I did hypnosis. I did NLP, sound healing. All those things are wonderful and amazing. And every time I did something, I had breakthroughs. And I had, I worked through things. I reprogrammed my mind. I got through limiting beliefs, and I had breakthrough after breakthrough. But every time I had a breakthrough, there was something else. And, the spiritual world, they talk about, it's never ending. You're always healing, you're always growing. There's always something to work on. But then I kept thinking, well, I think at that point, I really wasn't thinking about it. I just kept thinking like, all right, just keep going, keep tackling these issues, all these issues that I have that are keeping me from being my best self or my highest self or whatever. And it wasn't until um, uh, a more recent plant medicine experience and that I had, and actually not that experience itself, but after that, I went to Mexico and had some time to really reflect. And it something basically hit me that all these problems and things that I have that I'm trying to change are really just problems of my ego, because my real true self is not my ego. There's a beingness inside of me that is viewing these thoughts and emotions and um, all these things that I'm experiencing in my life that isn't my ego. um, and then I kind of just started questioning that beingness inside of me. Does that beingness inside of me know problems? And no. Does that beingness inside of me know time? Does it know space? Does it know struggle? Does it know fear? And it doesn't. It just is. And as I discovered that, I started thinking, well, why am I spending all this energy all of the time confronting these problems that all of these people are telling me and myself are telling me that I have and that I have to work through, when this beingness inside of me knows none of that? And what would happen if, instead of focusing on the problems, if I just turn inward and every time a problem or something came up, I released it to this beingness within me? What would happen? And so I started experimenting. And the results, I would say, are pretty profound and have been the quickest transformation of anything I've ever experienced. And I was already very much on an accelerated spiritual path, um, because when I was back to doing these limiting beliefs, and I still was tackling them, and I was still manifesting these great things, and I would go on a fabulous vacation, and that would be wonderful, and you would feel high, and then you break through this limiting belief and you feel so light, and you're like, yes, and you're up here, but then eventually something happens and you're down again, and it's like this roller coaster of emotions, and just a roller coaster of healing, and then the next thing, and healing, and then the next thing, and healing, and the next thing. And so when I was experiencing that, and that still wasn't working, I upped my spiritual game. I mean, I got serious. I was serious. I was, meditating and uh, talking to my guides or whatnot, and um, doing oracle cards and things, for myself, and that was my way of connecting spiritually. Um, and it became a complete part of my life, but I still was experiencing the emotional roller coaster of, breakthrough, and then the next issue, breakthrough, and then the next issue. Um, so I can tell you that since I figured out that, I've turned my awareness from focusing on the issues to focusing on my infinite beingness within me, everything is completely changed. And because when you spend every single day reminding yourself and remembering who you are this infinite being, that's just having this human experience, which people talk about all the time, but they don't really fully get it or embody it. And I think too, maybe just don't know how, because we're so conditioned to identify with our body and identify with our egos, identify with our thoughts and our emotions, and call ourselves Courtney and on whatever our name is, and celebrate our birthday and all these different things that are ingrained in us to keep telling us that we're not who we really are. So basically, what I've discovered is, instead of, I really don't dwell anymore on a problem. If a problem arises, I basically instantly notice it, acknowledge it, feel whatever the emotion is attached to it, and release it. And what I would, from I guess my Christian background, would say basically letting go and letting God. And what I've learned from a, I guess more of a scientific, because I still, from more of a scientific perspective, I guess, because I do find that in the beginning stages, it does help to maybe understand a little bit, even though I know that any kind of knowledge or trying to understand is purely ego. But your mind can help you. You can actually use your mind to help you release your mind. But I found that, we have all these issues, we have all these traumas and things that we experience in childhood, and they might not even be super traumatic, but we have different traumas that have programmed us to the way we are. And we a lot of times we try to analyze them, and we get triggered because it's all stored in our unconscious mind. And then now in the future, if we want to talk linearly, we get triggered by this unconscious memory. And oftentimes we want to journal it out and analyze it and try to figure it out in order to release it. But I've realized that that's actually not, you don't have to do that. You don't have to overanalyze your problems. In fact, when you are overanalyzing your problems, you're involving more of the ego versus yourself. And it's really that releasing and trusting is what allows more of Source to work through you. Because Source knows everything. Source God is all knowing, is all infinite, and doesn't need to learn or study or seek any knowledge. It just knows. So the more you surrender, the more you have more knowing. And now I've gotten to the point to where I really try not to study almost, because I'm trying to trust more. And by doing that, I get more knowledge actually that comes through me, and I get answers.
Right.
I get answers and knowingness versus trying to do all the time.
Yeah, you made me
Mhm.
think of something. I want to just jump in for a second and throw it. I love the conversation. This is exactly as a prosperity coach who teaches people how to solve their problems and create wealth by using spiritual principles and truth and wisdom. I go back. I was with a client this morning, and he was struggling and with stuff. And I said, "How much time do you spend actually loving yourself? How much time? I ain't got time for that." I said, "You know what? I'm going to go back to a spiritual principle and a spiritual truth. Jesus was a teacher. The last thing he wanted was to create a belief structure, but that's what we did. But that's not what he was looking for. He was teaching people how to get to the kingdom of heaven, which is at hand. And he wasn't talking about a place we go when we die. He was talking
Yeah.
about a higher level of consciousness,
Mhm.
which what we're talking about, that presence that you're talking about. And his own
Oh, you muted yourself.
it wasn't a suggestion, it was a commandment to love your Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And what that means is not to love some God of the concept of the egoic mind, which is what we've done largely in our religious institutions. It is to love that divine presence within us that you're talking about. And that is and when you make that your primary focus in life, and you create an intimate relationship with that part of you,
Right.
all your problems will go away, because there's that part of you will not create problems.
Right.
It will help you resolve them. And it's just that simple. So the how to, this is the how to: love yourself
Right.
and love your neighbor. I don't mean Martin, the ego over here. It doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to add, because what you're saying is exactly right, and it's really about, because people say, well, how do you? Well, you simply just stop what you're doing, you get still, and you let go of all these egoic problems, and you listen, and you love
Hmm.
yourself, and you get to know yourself. And for me, that's called Joy the Wise Woman. And the closer we've gotten, the more intimate we are, the more present she is, the more love, joy, and prosperity I have in my life. It's amazing.
Right. I know. And when you surrender, when it's really, it could be a problem, it could be emotion. So what happens, because I have little kids, and now it's exciting because I'm like, great. I'm like, my kids are my biggest teachers right now, because they do something. I could feel where in the past it would trigger me, it would trigger anger. Now they do something, that kids do, and then I can feel it coming on, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yes, like this is an opportunity. And I feel it, acknowledge it, and let it go. And then the more that you do that, the more that things that used to trigger you before, they just don't anymore. You become in this more neutral state where other people and things do not affect your state of being, which means that instead of like this, you're more even. And then maybe here and there, you're still, because it's a process. So it's not, it can happen overnight. It can, depending how strong your will is. Um, but the stability that you have, emotional stability, is so much greater. But then what I've also found too, it's kind of like, like when you lose something and you're like, where is it? And you're trying actually to find it. And then kind of like you stop and take a breath for a moment. And then you're like, I remember. So it's the same thing with problems, is if you just release it in that moment and redirect yourself, do something else, the knowledge and information comes to you, the ideas, you're opening yourself up to get that divine knowledge to come to you to solve whatever your issue is. And it comes to you effortlessly. And that is what true alignment is. But another thing that I wanted to point out that I've discovered, which has been a very huge discovery for me, of someone who's, I love traveling the world, and I love being outside in nature, and doing, a family and I are very active in doing all these things. And plus coming from a background of buying a lot of material things and being buying clothes and items that made me happy, I realized that it was never really the object, the person, or the experience that made me happy. It was that so when you desire something, so you desire a new home, and once you've worked up and you've manifested and you've got that new home, once you have it, you no longer have that desire anymore. You finally drop that attachment, and you feel, that's where the true happiness comes from, because you go back from desirelessness, which is true, your true, I hate to say beingness, but that's what it is. It's, you're going back to that true nature. And what we're doing when we're seeking out money, or we're seeking out all these material possessions and experiences, it's not that, we want $1 million. We don't really want a pile of paper. It's, we want that happiness and we want that freedom that it provides. But it's not the actual item that is providing it. It's that we finally let go. We finally let go into beingness when we've received it. But you don't have to have any of those things to, be happy, because all of that is within you, which is so funny, because then what ends up happening as you realize this, you want less and less things. Like right now where I'm at is like, I almost fantasize of like selling everything I own. It feels so good. Um, but I have little kids, so I'm not going to do that yet. Um, because you just feel so fulfilled within yourself, and you finally stop chasing these things outside of you, which is what Jesus and all these other creative, I was reading, all these other ascended masters have been trying to teach us, for centuries. Uh, right, that the kingdom of heaven is within us. So um, I guess one of the things that we had said in the post was talking about, the biggest obstacle that people have when manifesting is believing that they already have received it, even though they haven't yet. Which, pretty much everyone who teaches manifestation talks about that. You have to be it in order to receive it. But people don't understand that because it's a hard concept to grasp. But that's where this comes in. Instead of you have the first step for manifestation is really sinking in and focusing on your infiniteness. Because once you can grasp that and spend all of your energy doing that versus trying to pick out what you want and what's the next thing that's going to make you happy, or the next or what issue now are you going to work through to make you lighter and more aligned, focusing first on that infinite beingness that's inside of you, it really solves everything. It really is the answer to everything, because the problems, once you fully grasp, I guess I shouldn't say fully, because once you fully do, you're probably you're very enlightened, and your Jesus status. Although I do believe that's what he's trying to teach, that we all have the ability to do that as humans. We can all reach that status, and status is the wrong word, but that level of consciousness, which is Christ consciousness, which is Christ, which is the resurrection, which is so we don't have to go into that, but we can all reach that if we so desire. And I lost my train of thought.
Question on that note. What would you say for you is the practice that you, when you get lost out in the world and find yourself caught up in your ego and caught up in the story, because we all do that. I mean, I'll tell you this, but I've discovered the more spiritually awake I become, the cleverer. My ego is not intelligent, but it's very clever. And it can find ways to sneak in the most amazing, those clever ways, and begin to disrupt my life. And I thought, oh my God, here I am back in here. I thought, what do you do when your ego is sneaking back in through the back door, let's say?
I'm pretty good now because I've clearly defined the ego as pretty much being almost any thought.
Yes.
Really, all thoughts are limitations.
Yeah.
So because I've, but I'll tell you every day, and this is not like a side thing that you practice. This is a 24/7 commitment to changing your life. So every day I have something that I'm focusing on. And it's the center of my day. And I'm reminding myself of it throughout the day, whether it's an alarm or a note or something. So I'm always coming from that different perspective. So, and the more that I do that, the less actually that the ego is coming in. However, there's situations where I really have to be in, for now, where I have to use it. But of course, yes, things still come up because I am still learning. But it's easier for me now because I can spot it. I spot it. I'm like, oh, I'm just being in my ego. And as soon as you do, you just release. Because if you're releasing every single day, 50, 100 times a day, it becomes it's a habit, and it's just a part of your lifestyle. But I do a combination of one, having a focus of the day, being like, okay, today I'm going to, focusing on love and loving, seeing, every time I interact with a person, really just stepping into their energy and trying to feel and see from their perspective, knowing that they're a part of me, knowing that we're connected, knowing that we're one. And then I'm doing that with everyone all day. So I kind of treat it like a game. Or it could be, today I'm going to really focus on time being an illusion, and really focus on each moment and catch myself when I'm getting in my head, and remember to come back to the moment. Or it could be like just usually the only affirmation really that I do now, or I'm releasing, I am letting go, or just I am. So and that helped a lot at first. If I started getting thoughts that were a pattern that were coming up, I would just one, release, and then just be like, I am, and then just take just a second to just feel that presence. It could also be I'll practice just almost feeling slightly out of my body, and kind of observing my body going through time or going through space, and perceiving myself not as my body, but as the observer of even my body. Or, practicing all day of, I'm the observer of my thoughts. So it's really, you have to be consistent.
It's a practice, isn't it? It's always a practice, and what one of my mantras is, don't think it, feel it. And this morning, what I've been doing lately, because the weather's been so nice, instead of doing yoga in the morning, there's some woods near my house and some beautiful places to walk, and I've been taking my dog over in the morning for these nice long walks. And I'll be walking in the woods, and also I notice I'm walking through the woods and my mind's thinking, and I'm not experiencing the woods. I'm so caught up in my head trying to figure out my day and all kinds of things. And I'll just say, stop thinking and just feel it. And all of a sudden the woods I can see, and I'm part of the woods. It's like instantaneously. I mean, like you, I've been doing this for a really long time, so I sort of know. I'm doing it constantly, but that's just one thing that I do. Is if I notice that I'm just, if I'm even like I'm thinking about how pretty the woods are. Don't think how pretty the woods are. Feel how pretty the woods are, and feel the essence of the woods, and feel the essence of wherever you are in that moment, and everything will shift, because that presence is always there. The only thing that separates us from that is the mind, is the binary brain, the egoic mind. And like something you said a while ago, every thought is basically a judgment. Ultimately, every single thought is a judgment. And one of the quickest ways to tell if you're into your ego is if you're complaining. Every single complaint is a victim mentality. The smallest complaint, like, it's too hot outside. I'm now a victim. I can't enjoy the moment because it's too hot outside. And that's another way to, in the moment, begin to realize who's driving my bus in that moment. If I'm complaining, I can be assured that it is not my heart. It is not Joy the wise woman. It is my ego, because it wants something else than what it's got.
Right.
And that kind of wakes me up and says, wait a minute, can I just enjoy what's here right now? And it will shift, and it will move me out of that. And that's what I'm taking from what you're suggesting. And I think that it's exactly right. Well, we're at half the hour. and we like to do a little meditation. Do you want to lead us into 20 minutes of meditation, or would you like me
Sure.
to? I'm fine either way. I love it when someone else leads me into a meditation. So
Sure, why not? You're
you're
gonna
doing
have
a
the
wonderful
little
job so far, and I'm going to just put myself back on. Well, do you have a timer or something? I'm happy to set the timer for you and take care of that and let you do the leading. How about that? That way
yeah, you can do that.
I'll do that. So I'm going to set the timer and let you know that what we do is we set it for 20 minutes, and you're going to hear an interval timer 3 times between the 2 bells. And the point of that is to wake us up out of our trances. So I'm going to set that, and then I'm going to put myself back on. I'm going to just get quiet. I'm not going to put myself on mute because you won't hear the bell. But I'm going to I'm going to be not just let. I'm going to be excited that Courtney is taking us into our meditation today. So thank you for that, Courtney. Here's the bell.
There you go. Okay, so what I like to do is focus on circular breathing. And circular breathing just meaning that your inhale is equal to your exhale, about the same length. Now, as you're doing that, every time that you exhale, you can feel yourself releasing. And if it helps, you can repeat to yourself, because sometimes we get a lot of chatter in our mind, thoughts that come in. You don't want to put any attention on your thoughts. But as you exhale, you can basically just tell yourself, I am releasing, or I am letting go. And then you can feel as every time you're releasing, you're exhaling, you get more and more relaxed and comfortable. You're just emptying your mind. Also, this circular breathing, as you're doing it, it brings in and moves this life force energy within you. Sometimes when you're doing this circular breathing, you might start to feel some tingling in your head, or the center of your forehead, or maybe your hands, or somewhere in your body, or you might not feel it at all. It's just the energy movement. Just becoming aware of it. You can kind of just focus on, as you're releasing, just feeling present, feeling your breath. Maybe noticing any sounds in the room, or feeling the floor or the chair or the couch that you're sitting on. You're just existing. There's nowhere to go or nowhere to be or nothing to worry about. You can begin to notice feel warm or any type of sensation that's around your heart area. You feel like a ball of energy, or you can picture it as a ball of light, a small ball of light right where your heart is. You can see it and feel it, and just experience this energy right at your heart center. As you continue your breathing. You can see this white light energy within your heart. And it's slowly expanding. And it'll start kind of expanding throughout your body, kind of take over your chest, and run up to your head, and run down to your feet. That white light energy just encompasses your whole body. You might feel or warm, or sometimes it's like a staticky or electric sensation. Well, you might not feel anything. You don't necessarily have to feel it. You could just see it and see it encompassing your whole body. Now that your body is fully engulfed in this white light, which is your infinite beingness, it is your infinite power, your true form, you can start to expand this light out and around you. It's like a light globe that surrounds you, maybe 3 feet or so in every direction, below you, above you, in front of you, beside of you. Just a big light bulb that engulfs you. As you expand in front of you, you can expand this energy throughout your entire room and see that your energy, you, is actually filling the room, and that there's no separation between you and the room. Your energy, this light, is the entire room. Maybe just see what that feels like. Sense what it looks like to just be the room. You can expand that energy out to be your entire house or apartment, or wherever you are, just the entire building, and everybody and everything that's in it. You're not your body anymore. Kind of rise above your body and rise above everything that's in your area and in your home or your apartment. You can kind of experience just being this light that's filling this area. You can expand this light to your street. See the light just encompassing the entire street. This light that started from you. And every person, every place, everything, every animal, the trees, the grass, all the buildings, signs, all of that is just engulfed in light. Which is your light that's coming from you. You can begin to expand that light to encompass your entire county or city. What does it feel like to be an entire city? And everything that's in it. Sometimes when we're experiencing something this grand, it can bring on an emotion. Sometimes you might feel a little overwhelmed or even feel like crying. Or it might bring an immense amount of happiness or joy, just feeling what it's like to be an entire city. And in that city, there's many people. It might be hundreds of people or thousands of people or millions of people. You can imagine that white light just running through everything and every person, animating each person and each living thing, making it grow and thrive and exist. That white light energy running through everything all at one time. You can expand from your city now to your state. Or province, wherever you are. You might find yourself moving. It's common that you might be rocking either back and forth or in a circular motion as you're experiencing the energy of a large, what's perceived to be a large space. You can expand that out to your country. And see the light engulfing the entire country, the light that's within you, and whatever you call yourself. You can kind of see yourself not in the country, but more hovering above and experiencing, seeing, and feeling what it's like to be everything within your country. It's like to be a train. It's like to be a skyscraper or a tree or a mountain. You can be anything at any moment. It's whatever you're focusing on. You can expand that energy, that light, to be the entire world, to be the entire planet. What it's like to be a wave in the ocean. It's like to be the breeze, the wind. Maybe what it's like to be the rain. Or an entire continent. What does it feel like to be the entire world? You can expand it even further to be the entire galaxy. Every planet, star in it, and everything in between. And from the galaxy to the entire universe. Is there an end? Can you feel an end? Can you feel a beginning? Is there a limit? And the rest of the time, you can just spend enjoying, experiencing what it's like to be infinite, to be everything that there is and ever will be, to know no time or space, to know no end or beginning, just are.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was an absolute delight to just sit back and let go and let someone guide me into my beingness.
Yeah. I kind of felt I didn't want to come out of that.
I know, that's the thing. We get so pulled into self-love that it becomes a wonderful, wonderful habit. Oleg was a guest of mine a week or so ago, and he says, focus on what you can do and not can't do. Absolutely. Hello there. It's nice to be back. Hello, nice to be back too. Glad to have you back. Are you the woman who checked in from Malaysia about a week ago? I wonder. That was someone checked in from Malaysia. It's so exciting because I've got people from all over the world that check in daily and regularly, and it's and then Mindy wants to thank you for leading us today. And so there you go. And wow, what a nice treat. And exactly. The thing about this is the ego creates its identity from creating problems. So it has no interest in solving the problem, because if it solved the problem, it wouldn't have a reason for existence.
Yeah. And we get comfortable with our problems. And actually, from my experience too, some people, it really comes down to just letting go. It's all about letting go and releasing. You're releasing that control. And some people, and it's okay because everybody's at their own place, but some people would rather be in their problems and have control than to release and not have control and not know.
That's a great one. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he was trying to control a situation because he was afraid of being rejected. So he was creating a condition where he would be rejected. So he felt like he was in control of the rejection.
So it's like with it, the more you try to control, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah.
And the more that you give up control, the easier it gets.
Because the truth is, and we both know this, is that we don't control anything. It's all that divine presence that's running every single thing that's happening is happening by that divine presence. And the beauty is, we don't have to control it, because we can just let it live through us and enjoy that enjoy life. It's really much more exciting when we let go of control and let the power of the universe, we become the servant. And that's, you mentioned something a while ago about the brain and the ego. The brain can do two things. It's binary, so it's always going to compare and contrast. So it's the limited human brain, but it can become a wonderful servant and that's what, to be able to communicate, to be able to tell our story, and that's the shift, is when we allow ourselves to become the servant.
Right. Well, and it's a creation tool, because once you get comfortable in beingness, and can clear out a lot of the thoughts and release a lot of the stagnant thoughts and emotions that you've been experiencing your whole life over and over again, You can then become more intentional with what you have in your mind because you're constantly creating your reality at every moment.
Yeah.
So, some part of it is realizing, okay, even the bad that you've still created it. You're responsible for everything that you create, and just taking ownership of that power and knowing that you are the creator. But then you get to a point where you can be more focused on, more intentional on what you're creating, not from a place of because I need that, because of I'm infinite and this is what I want to, this is what I choose to experience next.
Right. It's really about it's our nature to create. It
Mhm.
isn't because we don't need anything, but it's fun to create it and experience
Yeah, we're
it.
create and experience. That's what we
Create
do. We create
experience.
it and we experience it.
That's a beautiful way to wrap this up, and that's a way of thinking about manifestation. Is it's creating experiences
Mhm.
as a way of living and not as a means to an end.
Mhm.
Because the fun is in the create. I know that as I've begun to do this, is the fun is in the creation. I don't have any end game to doing this other than the fact that I just enjoy doing it every day, and it brings
Mhm.
a lot of joy in my life. And I know it does for you. So I want to thank you so much. It's 1 o'clock,
Yeah, thank you.
and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you'll come back and
Absolutely.
have a wonderful rest of your day. And for everybody else, if you have a few minutes, sit down and reflect on what you've learned about yourself today in your journal. And may love and prosperity prevail. Thank you.